All right, what's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Cash Money Mike, and welcome to this episode of Creative Real Estate with Cash Money Mike. This episode is brought to you by the Elite Sales and Seller Finance Mastery 2.0, a live virtual event with my man Max Jimenez and myself on August 11th and 12th. And this is also brought to you by Wholesaling Live, which is an absolutely amazing event that's going to be held out in San Antonio, Texas on September 15th and 16th of this year. If you want a chance to earn while you learn, this is going to be the event for you. And I appreciate you all joining me. All right, welcome. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about seller finance. We're going to talk a little bit about creative real estate. As I kind of go through this, I guess, journey of teaching people high level creative real estate, it's amazing to me how many people really need help with real estate in general. And that's kind of what I want to cover before we get into some of the creative stuff. So here's the thing is that when you're going to get into real estate, you have to understand that you're playing in the highest level of legal ramifications, right? So, in other words, if you misstep in real estate, there's going to be a pretty substantial legal ramification to whatever you're doing, right? I mean, sometimes if you get out of line with tax, you can wind up getting audited. If you get out of line with, your contracts, sometimes they can come back to bite you. If you get out of line with even as something as minor as maybe picking the wrong market or picking the wrong area. When you think about investing in real estate, everybody thinks that it's this beautiful, glitzy thing. And it is, if you know how to protect yourself. Okay. So, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is how to pick a market and how to kind of align your goals with the market that you pick. So, before you pick something, you have to know why you're getting in. Like, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. You can wholesale real estate. You can make money doing novations. You can fix and flip real estate. You can do land contracts. You can do land leases. There's so many different things that you can do that I think one of the problems with a lot of people who get into the industry is they're not really clear on what they want to have happen. Now, usually when I poll all of the people that I'm in front of, whether I'm in some kind of a speaking engagement or I'm on stage, what I'll do is I'll find that most of the people that I run into want to be a landlord, right? They love the idea of owning rentals. And they would be right because ultimately that's the only way you truly can grab some wealth is when you own property, you manage property real well, you add value to a property, and then ultimately you take the second piece of the puzzle, which is the refinance component to really gain a lot of your wealth. And when I was coming up inside this industry, I remember my old man would tell me, hey, listen, you try to stay away from paying tax as long as you can. And um, you shouldn't take on any kind of debt. And as I got older, I realized, well, you know what? It's actually polar opposite. I've got to learn to fall in love with the tax code and fall in love with debt in order to ultimately truly get wealthy because the government incentivizes you to make investments into real estate as well as other sectors, agriculture, energy, oil and gas, real estate. And it's those sectors that provide the biggest tax benefits to an owner. And that's the reason why people get into them. And it's overlooked all too often is the benefit of the tax advantages that you get when you invest in real estate. So if you're going to invest, my opinion is to be a buy and hold investor, to acquire assets, to do a really good job managing them, and then refinance them and pull the money out of the property tax free. Let's get to the first step. How do you find these assets? Well, you heard for years growing up, location, location, location. It really is so true. I'm from New York originally, and I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina about 12 years ago. And when I moved down here, I didn't know one place from another, but I knew that I was going to buy a bunch of property down here. So, how did I identify areas? Well, I literally would come home every single day. I would open up a map. I would look on the map where I wanted to be or different areas, and I would get in my car and I would drive those areas. And I remember when I first came down here and I started to make some connections, I would run into people and they go, do not go to the west side of Charlotte. And I'd say, well, what do you mean? They go, you shouldn't go over there. It's a very, very rough area. And me being from New York, if you haven't been through the Bronx at night, you really don't know what a rough area is. I mean, that's like a war zone down there, specifically the South Bronx. So I wasn't intimidated to go into those areas. And me personally, I felt like there was nowhere to go but up. So for people who tell you C areas and D areas aren't great areas, I say, well, if you really understand the area well, you can make an absolute fortune in those areas. So I became very well acquainted with different areas and I started buying up property. And before you know it, I started making a bunch of money. But when I first came down here, I was making a mistake because I would acquire these properties and then I would sell them and I would make really great money, just like a wholesaler makes really great money. But the reality is that those huge chunks of money or clips of money, they don't last very long at all. You can rip through a $40,000 clip of money pretty quickly, $50,000 clip of money very, very quickly. But had I just held on to them, my God, I could have 10x'd that money. But you don't know what you don't know. So I immediately got educated and I learned all about the different acquisition strategies and all about the big money game and how it's played. And I'll never forget, I was at a note investing seminar one time, and there were two guys up at the front of the room, and they were going over how to create notes. There were about 40 of us in this class. And out of all 40 people, I had raised my hand. I was the only one who had raised my hand. And I said, hey, I got a question for you. I said, are you creating these notes just to sell them? And one of the presenters turned to his friend and went, we've got one, as if to say, this guy's asking the right questions. Well, you can imagine I had 39 eyes on me going, what does this guy know that I don't know? Well, that night I came home and I grabbed this dry erase marker and I put up whiteboards all over my office. And I was absolutely blown away by what I was writing on the whiteboard. I understood finance, but more importantly, what hit me that day was how to underwrite the finance, but more importantly, how to sequence it into my pitch. So because I had a little experience in real estate, I knew how to deal with sellers. I also knew how to deal with agents. I've dealt with difficult sellers. I've dealt with easy sellers. And if we're going to ultimately try to buy a piece of property at a discount, nothing really gets more difficult than that. But the minute I saw all the numbers on that whiteboard, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to stand out from my competition in a way that most people don't understand. Now, I teach a seller finance course every month. And every month I put about 10 investors into a room virtually, and I teach them all about seller finance, how to structure the deals, underwrite the deals, identify the deals, how to pitch the deals, how to get the conversation started, which levers to pull to negotiate, which components to negotiate, how to do it effectively and seamlessly so you can put together a deal that pays you forever. And when I understood the math as well as how to pitch it off the top of my head, my entire investment strategy opened up. And I was able to acquire properties in a way that not many people could. So I immediately had a leg up on the competition by understanding the strategy. I definitely had a leg up on the competition by understanding a very, 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 very basic mathematical skill set. You don't need much to underwrite deals in seller finance. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can underwrite these deals. But most people who get into the industry don't realize how easy it is. And they think it's very, very difficult. And it's not. Again, you need a very easy elementary school mathematical skill set. But most importantly, you've got to be a really good read of people. In other words, can you get on the phone with a seller and know inherently what the issue is by asking a couple of questions? Do you know inherently how to fix that how to fix that problem with a solution that not many people have by being able to again ask questions effectively? What happens with most people who get involved is they get in and ask all the wrong questions. They show up and tell a seller exactly what they could do without actually showing them what they can do. And that's where I come in. So on August 11th and 12th, my man Max Jimenez and myself are going to be throwing a virtual event. This is called the Elite Sales and Seller Finance Mastery. This is a 2-day live virtual event that you can get involved in for $197. It's going to be roughly 8 hours of training and 2 hours of Q&A. And then there's another ticket option for $297, and then there's another ticket option for $497. If you choose to take the big ticket option, you're going to get an opportunity to win a once-in-a-lifetime chance to get out to San Antonio and wholesaling live and join us live. We're going to send you a plane ticket. We're going to put you up in our hotel, and then we're going to break some bread with you, and then we're going to train you. And then we're going to give you a ticket to the event. And if you lock up a deal live, ultimately you're going to get paid on it. Most importantly, you'll be trained before you get there. So if you ever wanted an opportunity to get into creative finance, or you're struggling at wholesale, you don't know which strategy to deploy, you don't know how to get on the conversation, you don't know how to keep a seller on the phone, and you're having a problem locking up deals, go ahead and scan the QR code. We'd love to have you. Now, there's limited space left. There's only a few spots left at the 197, and there's only a few spots left at the 497. We're just about 2 weeks away. So if you're interested in it, 2.5 weeks away. If you're interested in it, now is the time to get involved. Okay? I'm also throwing a completely free seller finance webinar. That's going to happen on June 30th, which is this Sunday. So this might be a good idea to scan the QR code now. Get about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours worth of training. I'll go for about 2 hours completely live. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. And then if you like what you see there, you can go ahead and get involved inside the 2-day live intensive. If you want to get involved in the private Facebook group, this is completely free. It's called the Creative Real Estate Academy. You can scan that QR code, send in a request, and admin will provide you with access pretty quickly. We started this group about 4 weeks ago, and we're right up to about 1,100 members, which is amazing. We've got about 26,000 followers on the Facebook page. and things are growing very, very quick. The access to these aren't going to be around forever. So if you want access to them, now is the time to get involved. Okay. There is a chat box right down, on your right hand side. If you've got any questions whatsoever, just go ahead and put your questions inside the chat box. I'd be happy to answer them. We've got a few viewers on here now, and most people will see this later on. So if you have something you'd like to ask, you are more than welcome to do it now, and I'll be happy to answer your question. If you haven't heard of Wholesaling Live, though, that event is going to be an absolutely killer event. There are a lot of people flying in from out of town. They put about, 600 people into a room. And ultimately, it's this big boiler room where they provide you leads, and we try to lock up deals live. So it's an amazing event to get involved in. This entire platform, this Restream platform with all these tickers and stuff, I'm actually working these myself. So I can change the tickers here, which is very cool. Show you my IG page. I can then show you my Facebook page. I could give you a pro tip. Here's the first pro tip. Read this clearly. Never ask a seller this. Mr. Seller, are you open to a creative offer? I could pay you more money if you sell or finance your property to me. If you give me the terms I need, I'll balloon you out in 30 years. Never, ever, ever say that. Pro tip number 2, the right way to ask for a balloon. Mr. Seller, if I gave you what you were asking for, how much time would you give me to pay it off? All right. All amazing little pro tips for you to take with you. All right, listen, I appreciate you joining me here. Wanted to make you aware of the Elite Sales and Seller Finance Mastery. One more time, if you are interested in it, here it is. You get an amazing opportunity to join us live. Just go ahead and scan the QR code. You can grab your ticket. There is limited space left. And I appreciate you all for joining me here today. Tomorrow is going to be an amazing day as we finish up my July seller finance training and get ready for August. So we will be back on this platform here shortly. I appreciate you joining me. And remember that if you're going to be original, you can guarantee you're going to be copied.